Stories are right time, right place. My name is Osadumebi, and every week I will tell you a short story written by a Nigerian writer or author. That's the long and short of it. So without much ado, this week's story is by Oluwamayowa Bankole, and it's the first part of the story titled Chasing Blue Horizons. Listen in next week for the concluding part. Yagazie first met Tokunbo on a bus from Port Harcourt to Lagos. The kind of rickety vehicle that seemed as though it had been put together with the leftover parts of other more fortunate buses. The seats were too close together, the air too thick with the smell of sweat and dust, and the driver, a man with a face that had seen too many years on the road, drove as though he had long since made peace with death. Tokunbo was one of those quiet types, the kind who blended in but somehow stood out, especially to Yagazie, whose eyes never missed a detail. He sat beside her, his fingers wrapped around the spine of a book, and she noticed it almost immediately. It wasn't a crumpled newspaper or a dog-eared magazine like the others around her. It was a real book, Arrow of God. The very title made her smile to herself, even though she knew it wasn't a smile that anyone else would understand. The pages of her own copy of the book were so worn out now that she had to hold it together with rubber bands. But she loved it. Loved the way it described the tension between tradition and change. The way it painted the internal conflict of a man struggling with his own beliefs. She had read it too many times to count, and with each reading, she found something new in its words. When the bus lurched forward with a groan, her shoulder accidentally brushed against Tokunbo's arm, and she instinctively pulled away. He looked up at her, his eyes warm and welcoming, the kind of smile that reached all the way to the edges of his face. "Do you think we'll make it to Lagos in one piece?" "Well, I sure hope so," she said with a grin. "My mother will kill me if I don't anyway." He raised an eyebrow. "So you're going home?" "No," she replied, surprised at how easily the words slipped out. "My sister is getting married and she lives in Lagos." Tokunbo's face lit up with a smile. "Congratulations to her," he said. "Is she older or younger?" "Older," Yagazie replied. "She's the first one to officially leave the house, so my mother has been crying every day for the past month." Tokunbo chuckled softly, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Mothers always do that," he said, "even when they know it's coming." They fell into a comfortable silence, the kind that only happens between strangers who have no need to fill the space with words. The road stretched out ahead of them, long and cracked, the dust rising in thick clouds every time a truck sped past. Yagazie stole glances at him ever so often, wondering about the person behind those quiet eyes, but there was no hurry. There was no rush to know anything about him. She liked the stillness of the moment, the rhythm of the bus, the steady hum of the tires against the asphalt. As the hours passed, they spoke in stops and starts. She learned that he had been visiting a friend in Port Harcourt, also that he had studied engineering at the University of Ibadan, but had yet to find a job that fit him. She shared that she was a nurse, that she had left Enugu 3 years ago to work in Port Harcourt, and although she didn't like the city's constant dampness, she loved the independence it gave her. "Do you like Lagos?" she asked after a long while. Tokunbo looked out the window, his gaze distant. "I don't know yet," he admitted, his voice quiet, almost as if he were speaking to himself. I think I will. I don't think it's that different from my Ibadan. I have no choice but to. At some point, he asked her what she was reading. She held up her copy of Everything Good Will Come by Sefi Atta, and he nodded in approval. You like books about women who find themselves? Yagazie laughed, surprised by how easily he understood. And what do you like? He raised an eyebrow, his lips curving into a half-smile. Books about men who lose themselves. They laughed, the sound ringing out in the confined space of the bus. It was the kind of laugh that seemed to echo long after the words had been spoken, like something that had always been there, waiting to be heard. When the bus stopped in Benin for a break, they found themselves at a roadside stall eating roasted yam and peppered meat wrapped in crumpled newspaper, the smoky scent filling the air as they spoke about everything. About the teacher who had changed her life in secondary school, about the uncle who had promised to Kumbo a job in Lagos but had never picked up his calls, about the way childhood homes became smaller and more cramped when you returned to them as an adult. Do you ever feel like the past is a different life? Tokumbo asked suddenly, looking at her over his skewer of meat. All the time, Yagazie said, nodding. Every time I go back to Enugu, I expect it to be the same, but it never is. The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of their shared understanding. It was a moment neither of them could have anticipated, but somehow it felt like everything that needed to be said had been said. When they got back to the bus, she found herself leaning toward him, her shoulder brushing against his once again, and he didn't move away. The distance between them seemed to shrink in ways that neither of them could explain, but neither of them needed to. Lagos arrived in a flurry of noise and movement, the air thick with exhaust fumes and the shouts of conductors calling for passengers. They disembarked, and Yagazie collected her bag from the boot of the bus, suddenly unsure of how to say goodbye. Oluwamayowa Bankole is a Nigerian writer based in Lagos. She writes stories that explore the quiet, deeply human moments of life, drawing inspiration from Nigerian culture, identity, family, and the relationships that shape us. She has stories in Isele magazine, Flash Fiction magazine, and others forthcoming. You can connect with her on Instagram, X, and all social media platforms at The May Banks. Details and links will be in the episode description. If you've got a story you would like to be featured on this podcast, or a published book you want to make into an audiobook, I would love to hear from you. Send an email to info@osadumebi.com or send me a message at Osadumebi on either Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or X. I look forward to collaborating with you. And if you've enjoyed this week's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with that one person you know will enjoy listening. Tell them that stories are a good escape for a few minutes each week.